So today in the landscape lowdown, I want to try to answer the question, when do I prune my hydrangea? So the first thing you're gonna want to check out is actually another video. If you haven't already seen my video on the different types of hydrangea, then I'd recommend going over and checking that out first and then coming back to this video. It really is crucial to know your hydrangea before going into the different types of pruning that you will need to do. So I'm going to go through 3 different categories of hydrangea. And so there's those ones that bloom on old wood, there's those ones that bloom on new wood, and then a third category that they actually bloom on new and old wood. So those are the 3 different categories that I'm going to go over here. The first one, those that bloom on old wood, that would be like your big leaf hydrangea, Hydrangea macrophylla. That would be the mountain hydrangea, Hydrangea serrata. And the third one I'm going to talk about is the oak leaf hydrangea, and that's Hydrangea quercifolia. So what does that mean that it blooms on old wood? That means that the bloom sets after the blooming occurs throughout the season. It sets new buds for the next season. So that means it blooms on the old wood, the wood that has been there, and it's set that bud on the old wood for the next season. So the reality is, with these that bloom on old wood, means that you shouldn't prune them. That's the big mystery. You really should not prune those that bloom on old wood. The reason being is that you're going to be cutting off those blooms, those buds that you have been set for next season. So you really shouldn't do it. Don't recommend it. The only time you really should prune is if you have a lot of dead canes in the plant, and that actually should occur in the spring. So you should prune the dead canes out of it in the spring. When everything is emerging, you can tell what is dead and what is alive. That's really the only time we recommend pruning those. Try to plan for them in your landscape. That's really the first thing, is that when you plant those, or you have someone planting those, that they should be planted in the right location. The next type of hydrangea that I'm going to talk about are those that bloom on the new wood. Now this will be like the panicle hydrangea, Hydrangea paniculata, and the smooth hydrangea, which is Hydrangea arborescens. So those 2 will actually bloom on new wood. So when they bloom on new wood, that means they actually emerge and they bloom on a new growth from this season. So that helps you with pruning, because now you can actually prune those. When do I prune those? Those you should prune in the late fall and early winter. Or you can also prune them in the early spring. That new growth's going to pop up out regardless of when you prune them on either spectrum there, and it's going to bloom super well for you. Now there's a third category that I mentioned, and that is going to be your reblooming hydrangea. So the reblooming hydrangeas are those that bloom on old and new growth. So both those things come together in this group, and it makes it a little bit more complicated, because you can actually have a big leaf hydrangea with a certain cultivar that is reblooming, or you can also have a mountain hydrangea with a certain cultivar that is reblooming. What does that mean for pruning on these? Basically, we'd recommend staying with the same type of treatment as the old growth is concerned. So you want to pretty much plant them in the space that you know it's going to fill out and fill into well, and then you're going to also prune out those dead canes in the early spring. With that being said, I really appreciate you watching, and if you have anything you'd like to add to this or comments, please post below and we'd love to get back to you. Thanks for watching.